Okay, well let's move on to Brandon Aiyuk. The Niners traded up to get this kid. He's a wide receiver from Arizona State. He was a starter for 1 year in college. He played 1 year of high school football and was a cornerback. But it looks like he's a
Mhm.
stud athlete. What is your impression of Aiyuk?
Brandon Aiyuk, I like him. He's a gadget player, much like Deebo Samuel. As we know, Deebo Samuel got hurt, so he's going to be the man to shine, right? You don't draft players in the first round to ride the pine. You definitely don't draft players in the first round to not play.
Right.
So he's going to be the next man up. He's going to be playing. They're going to use him on a lot of end arounds, a lot of jet sweeps, just like they used Deebo Samuel, a lot of bubble screens. Also, what I like about Brandon Aiyuk is he's strong across the middle, just like Deebo Samuel was. And his run after the catch ability is probably one of the best in this draft. His return ability is going to be definitely valued. So it puts Dante Pettis again on notice. He's going to be on the hot seat. And then when you add all that into account, it really makes it hard for the team to kind of keep Dante Pettis when you have a Brandon Aiyuk who can do multiple things. And they're heavily invested in him because they not only did they draft him in the first round, they traded up in the first round.
It was funny. Right after they drafted him, we were asking Kyle Shanahan, like, well, what was that? Why would you who's Brandon Aiyuk? Why'd you do that? And he's like, well, he's a lot like Dante Pettis in the sense that he can do X, Y, Z, which is what I always said Pettis could do. So to me, when I interpreted it, it's like, oh, they're replacing Pettis. Like if they had any confidence in Dante Pettis, they wouldn't have drafted this guy. But this is who they had hoped Pettis would become.
Yes,
that's the way
exactly.
Yeah.
No, you hit it on the nail, and actions speak louder than words. So for them to even move up into the first round, back higher from 31 to 25 to get their guy, when they could have had him at 31, they're really all their cards and all their chips are on the table. Like, hey man, we're going all in on Brandon Aiyuk.
No doubt, all in. Yes. So another thing that you said, he's similar to Deebo Samuel. I agree. They're both gadget players. They're both better after the catch than before it. Although they're not bad before the catch, but they're just so so gifted after the catch. The one way I think that Aiyuk is different than Deebo and complements him, you mentioned strong over the middle. They are. But the one thing like my one pet peeve about Deebo is he's short, not short. He has short arms. And so the margin of error when you're throwing to him over the middle is slim. If you're a little high, he doesn't have the length to adjust, and he could tip it and it could be a pick. But Aiyuk has these freakishly long arms, which I think is a nice compliment. I always thought that the guy opposite Deebo should be a big receiver. And Aiyuk isn't big, but he has these long arms, so he can kind of play that like that.
Yeah, exactly. He has a big catch radius, right? So when you take that into account, he has explosive ability to high point the football. So when you take all of these things into account, you're going to get a player who plays bigger than his size indicates.
Right. And
Steve
I think
Smith was only 5'9".
Right. I think it's important for a guy who's playing with Jimmy.
Yes.
I mean, Jimmy has a high completion percentage, but he also does throw some picks, and a lot of that is ball placement issues.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of bad Jimmy, as you would say.
Yeah. So I think Aiyuk theoretically helps him. My question with Aiyuk is, you said he's going to start week 1 or needs to, and I agree. Deebo started week 1 last year, but the difference is no mini camp this year, no OTAs this year, reduced training camp.
It's tough.
How does he learn the system?
Well, it's tough, man. I mean, if you don't get that repetition, you don't get that muscle memory, you don't get that neuromuscular efficiency that you need to run these crisp routes, right? Timing, all this plays a role. And then outside of that, you need to strength and condition, right? You're no longer are you in college football where you can get by your pure athleticism. You have to win with your fundamentals. You have to win with being disciplined off the line of scrimmage, and you have to win by getting in the weight room. Because if you're not getting off the line of scrimmage, then you're dead before the ball is even snapped.
That's Dante Pettis'
And corners
problem.
are just going to press it.
That's Dante's
There you
problem.
go.
And they figured that out
Exactly.
week 2 against the Lions, I believe, 2018. They were talking about it after the game. That was his first home game. He was down there talking about how, because Jimmy got sacked 6 times in that game, and they were saying, our wide receivers couldn't beat the press, could not.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
there you have it. Proof is in the pudding.
Who do you think will have a better rookie season, Aiyuk or Deebo from last year?
Deebo from last year.
Okay. Do you think Deebo's a better player?
Deebo from last year. I do.
Okay.
But I think Brandon Aiyuk might have more yards simply because I think he's going to be used more in the return game. All-purpose yards.
That's okay. So you think he'll be the starting punt and kick returner?
Yeah,
Has
for
to
sure.
be, right?
For sure.
And the fact that
for sure.
Pettis didn't win that job was a bad sign, right? That was the beginning.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher, man, because he does have the lateral agility to move, make tacklers miss and then get upfield. He led the nation in punt returns and kick returns for touchdowns, so I don't understand why that's not translating to the NFL. I mean, that's all instinct. Punt return game and the return game in general is just based off instincts.
Yeah.
And for that not to translate at the NFL level, it could be that I don't know what's going on through Dante Pettis' head. I don't want to assume anything, but let's face it. When you're a healthy scratch for the Super Bowl, you have to be unmotivated to play for that squad.
Yep.
And that coaching staff.
Yep. And I wonder why that is. I didn't want to ask you about Pettis, but we're on the subject anyway. We've talked about him before privately in your bedroom. What I wanted to ask, that sounded wrong. Let me ask you a question about Pettis. If he does get traded, and I don't know if you think he will, but I think he will. The team that acquires him, do you think they'll acquire him primarily to be a wide receiver or a returner? Do you think other teams still see him as a valuable returner?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think there's about 7 to 8 teams that have high interest in Dante Pettis as strictly a return man with the capability to be a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver, because he still has that talent. One thing that Dante Pettis has is speed and lateral agility, and those two things you can't coach.
It just doesn't seem like it fits this offense anymore because it's a dink and dunk offense, not a downfield offense, and he seems like he has the moves to get open downfield.
Yeah, so it's more for a vertical stretching down the seams passing.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So he'd be good on Pittsburgh.
Oh, absolutely. Pittsburgh, Baltimore Ravens could use him. There's a plethora of teams who actually had pre-draft visits with them, like the Philadelphia Eagles, and they could really use a guy like Dante Pettis.
See, this is why I ask you. See, that's a great point. The Eagles had a pre-draft interview with him. Yeah. Any team that wants to throw the ball down the field might have interest in him. The Niners just don't do it very much.
Yep.
Maybe once a game.
Well, they don't need to, though, because they have George Kittle.
And they have Deebo, and they have all these other ways to get yards after the catch.